The geopolitical landscape of early 2025 was fraught with uncertainty. Many observers speculated NATO was facing a crisis of cohesion, internal disagreements shifting political winds. There were concerns support for Ukraine might begin to wane under the pressure of prolonged conflict and economic strain. However, events of recent months, particularly October 2025, have painted a starkly different picture. Instead of fracturing, the alliance shows renewed unity, centered on a major expansion of a critical support initiative for Ukraine. This shift isn't merely symbolic, it's a tangible strategic pivot that could reshape the conflict. The core of this renewed solidarity is the expansion of the Prioritized Ukraine Requirements List, the PURL program. The Prioritized Ukraine Requirements List, or PURL, is an innovative funding and procurement model designed to streamline and enhance military aid to Ukraine. At its core, the program operates on a simple yet highly effective principle. Instead of NATO members donating equipment from their own stockpiles, which can be slow and limited by inventory, allied countries contribute money to a collective fund. Ukraine, with partner consultation, uses that money to buy specific, high-priority weapons and equipment directly from U.S. defense manufacturers. That marks a big shift from the ad hoc early aid packages. It introduces strategic coherence to the effort. The system offers several clear advantages for Ukraine. Chiefly, Ukraine can acquire exactly what it needs, rather than what allies happen to have. Battlefield needs change with seasons and shifting enemy tactics. PURL lets Ukraine be agile. What began as a limited, almost experimental initiative backed by a handful of nations has rapidly transformed. In the early stages, some observers questioned whether the program could achieve critical mass, viewing it as a well-intentioned but modest effort. However, that initial skepticism has been decisively swept away by a groundswell of support. The program has blossomed into a broad and formidable coalition, now encompassing more than half of NATO's 32 members. This rapid expansion serves as a powerful rebuttal to the narrative that Western resolve was faltering or that support for Ukraine was becoming fragmented. Instead, it demonstrates a strategic realignment, a collective decision to pool resources and share the political and financial burden of long-term assistance. The momentum became undeniable when NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte officially confirmed that over half of the alliance had committed to the PURL framework. This announcement solidified the program's status as a cornerstone of NATO's strategy. The initial vanguard of nations included the Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Germany, and Canada. Together, they seeded the first packages, providing a critical injection of a little over $2 billion. This wasn't just a donation, it was a strategic seed fund designed to prove the model's viability and build momentum. And the strategy worked. With a steady stream of new contributors joining the ranks, that initial total is set to climb sharply, promising a more sustainable and predictable flow of aid. The second wave of participants demonstrates the program's broadening appeal. Newcomers, like Finland, which brings its own significant defense industry and strategic perspective, have joined. They are accompanied by Iceland, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Baltic states of Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. For the Baltics in particular, this is not just a matter of alliance solidarity. They view Ukraine's fight for survival as intrinsically linked to their own sovereignty and national security. While major European powers like France and the United Kingdom were not among the early contributors, the sheer momentum and the program's proven effectiveness make their future participation increasingly likely. Their involvement would add significant financial and industrial weight to the coalition. This broad-based coalition achieves several critical objectives simultaneously. It raises substantial funds, but more importantly, it dilutes the political risk for any single nation. By acting in concert, members strengthen their collective resilience against shifting domestic politics or the risk of so-called Ukraine fatigue. Politically and financially, the expansion transforms PURL from a peripheral initiative into a central load-bearing pillar of NATO's collective support strategy for Ukraine, ensuring its efforts are more durable, predictable, and unified. With a significant influx of new funding from the expanded PURL program, the critical question becomes, what weapons will Ukraine likely prioritize for purchase? Based on recent statements from Ukrainian officials and analysis of the battlefield, several key categories stand out as urgent needs. The PURL framework tailors procurement to immediate threats, especially with winter approaching. First and foremost is air defense. Russia's missiles and drones demand more interceptors and systems. Ukraine needs missiles for Patriot and Iris-T, as well as NASAMS, and support for incoming F-16s. Long-range strike munitions, especially for HIMARS, remain critical to hit deep targets. Ukraine also needs more artillery systems and vast stocks of 155mm shells. Finally, scaling Ukraine's drone army, both purchases and components, builds a sustainable domestic capability. As Ukraine and its partners look to leverage the Pearl Fund for maximum impact, the focus sharpens on capabilities that can fundamentally alter the battlefield. While air defense and artillery remain vital, the ability to project force deep behind enemy lines is seen as a critical next step. Among the potential acquisitions being discussed, one system stands out as a true strategic game-changer: the Tomahawk cruise missile. A cornerstone of U.S. power projection for decades, the Tomahawk is a long-range, all-weather, subsonic cruise missile known for its exceptional precision. Its introduction would represent a major escalation in the type of weaponry provided to Ukraine. As a U.S.-made weapon, Tomahawks are theoretically purchasable under Pearl, but any such transfer would require explicit U.S. approval. This decision reportedly hangs in the balance, weighing the potential for a decisive Ukrainian advantage against the risk of a wider conflict. Their operational range, up to 1,500 miles, puts key Russian military command centers, logistics hubs, and air bases deep within its territory, firmly within reach. That credible threat could force Russia to reconsider its entire strategic approach, pulling valuable air defense assets back to protect its interior. As President Zelensky suggests, the simple existence of such a capability could sober Moscow up. At roughly $2.5 million each, they are expensive, but the expanded Pearl funding makes limited, high-impact purchases plausible. And while traditionally sea-launched, modern land-based launchers could provide Ukraine with a credible and mobile deep strike capability, compensating for its limited naval options. Unsurprisingly, the Kremlin has warned that such a transfer would cross a significant red line and seriously damage already fraught U.S.-Russia relations. For now, the White House remains publicly non-committal, likely using the very possibility as diplomatic leverage. However, if the Tomahawk is ultimately deemed too escalatory, other long-range systems, such as European-made air-launched missiles, could be procured through Pearl as a powerful alternative. Regardless of the specific system chosen, analysts agree that a Pearl-funded acquisition of long-range precision strike weapons would be among the most consequential moves of the entire conflict. While the Pearl initiative is a significant strategic development, it's not a silver bullet. The sheer scale of the conflict demands a colossal flow of resources, and significant gaps in funding and materiel remain. These shortfalls could impact Ukraine's ability to sustain long-term campaigns. To address this, Ukraine is seeking its partners' help to cover a $60 billion non-military spending deficit. This budget is essential for keeping the state functioning, paying pensions, funding hospitals, and maintaining critical infrastructure. Several ambitious proposals are on the table. One idea calls for allied nations to commit 0.25% of their GDP annually to support Ukraine, creating a predictable stream of funding. Another option involves issuing loans to Ukraine financed by profits from Russia's frozen sovereign assets. This approach aims to make the aggressor state indirectly pay for the defense of the nation it attacked, though it navigates a minefield of international law. Beyond immediate funding, a crucial long-term goal is expanding Ukraine's own domestic defense industry, with the ultimate aim of self-sufficiency. Even amidst the conflict, Ukraine has demonstrated remarkable industrial ingenuity. Recent reports indicate that nearly 60% of the weapons currently in use by its forces were domestically produced. However, scaling this production requires massive investment in new factories, resilient supply chains, and a skilled workforce. This involves building new facilities, sometimes underground, to protect them from attack. For international partners, investing now is a strategic investment in building a future European security provider, a nation capable of defending its own borders and contributing to the continent's collective security. Ultimately, the expanded PRL marks a profound strategic victory for Allied unity. It empowers Ukraine with the agency to acquire high-priority capabilities tailored to its evolving battlefield needs, ensuring the right tools get to the front lines faster. The path forward remains fraught with difficulty, but with these parallel efforts in funding, procurement, and industrial growth, a new chapter of solidarity and strategic support has decisively begun.